A Dancin' Fire, Chapter 3 by Weguen Jarth. Snowball will read this in the same dramatic fashion he's read all the other ones. Snowball likes to read these. Mother Pasca disappeared into the sordid hole that was her tavern, and emerged a moment later with a scrap of paper with Leotis Jarus' familiar scrawl. Demiscus Scotti held it up before a patch of sunlight that had found its way through the massive boughs of the tree city, and read, Skakuti? Skakuti. So you made it to Fallen City, Valenwood. Congratulations. I'm sure you had quit a adventure. Please spell correctly, you suck. I'm sure you had quit an adventure getting here. Unfortunately, I'm not here anymore, as you probably guess. There is a town downriver called Ethiamat. Get a boat and join me. It's ideal. I hope you brought a lot of contracts. Because these people need a lot of building done. They were close to the war, you see, but not so close they don't have any money left to pay. Haha. Meet me down here as soon as you can. Jarus. Your bad spelling made my brain hurt. So Scotti pondered. Jarus left Falnicity and gone to some place called Athi. Given his poor penmanship and ghastly spelling, it could equally well be Athe, Apathy, Orthy, Imuthor, Urtha, or Krakamaka. The sensible thing to do, Scotty knew, was to call this adventure over and try to find some way to get back home to the Imperial... What was that? Are you not working? Is it breaking up? Damn. And try to find some way to get back home to the Imperial City. He was no mercenary devoted to a life of thrills. He was, or at least had been, a senior clerk at a successful private building commission. Over the last few weeks, he had been robbed by the Cathay Rat, taken on a death march through the jungle by a gang of giggling Bosmeri, half starved to death, drugged with fermented pill's milk, and nearly slain by some kind of a giant tick and attacked by archers. He was filthy, exhausted, and had he counted 10 gold pieces to his name. Now the man whose proposal brought him to the depths of misery was not even there. It was both judicious and seemingly to abandon the enterprise entirely. And yet a small but distinctive voice in his head told him, "You have been chosen. You have no other choice but to see this through." Scotty turned to the stout old woman, Mother Pascati, who had been watching him curiously. "I was wondering if you knew of a village that was at the edge of the recent conflict with elsewhere. It's called something like Athi." "You mean Athe," she grinned. "My middle lad. Vigili, Athe Vigili. He manages a diary down there." What? That's a lowercase d, isn't it? Diary down there. Beautiful country, right on the river. Is that where your friend went? Yes, said Scotty. Do you know the fastest way to get there? After a short conversation, an even shorter ride to Falnicity's routes by way of the platforms, and a jog to the riverbank, Scotty was negotiating transport with a huge fair-haired Bosmer with a face like a pickled carp. He called himself Captain Balfix, but even Scotty, with his sheltered life, could recognize him for what he was: a retired pirate for hire, a smuggler for certain, and probably much worse. His ship, which had clearly been stolen in the distant past, was a bent old imperial sloop. 50 gold and we'll be in Athe in 2 days' time, boomed Captain Bolifix expansively. I have 10. No, sorry, 9 gold pieces, replied Scotty, and feeling the need for explanation added, I had 10, but I gave 1 to ferryman to get me down here. 9 is just as fine, said the captain agreeably. Truth be told, I was going to Athe whether you paid me or not. Make yourself comfortable on the boat. We'll be leaving in just a few minutes. Damascus Scotty boarded the vessel, which sat low in the water of the river, stacked high with crates and sacks that spilled out of the hold, and galley. Stacked high with crates and stacks. What? Okay, gotta start over. Damascus Scotty boarded the vessel, which sat low in the water of the river, stacked high with crates and sacks that spilled out of the hold and galley and onto the deck. You're not supposed to chain ands like that. There should be a comma instead of that and. Each was marked with stamps advertising the most innocuous substances: copper, scraps, lard, ink, high rock meal, marked for cattle, tar, fish jelly. Scotty's imagination reeled, picturing what sorts of illicit imports were truly aboard. It was more than those few minutes for Captain Balfax to go to haul in the rest of his cargo. But in an hour the anchor was up and they were sailing downriver towards Athe. The green-gray water barely rippled, only touched by the fingers of the breeze. Lush planted life crowded the banks, obscuring from sight all the animals that sang and roared at one another. Lulled by the serene surroundings, Scotty drifted to sleep. At night he awoke and gratefully accepted some clean clothes and food from Captain Balfix. Why are you going to Athe, may I ask? Queried the Bosmer. A meeting a former colleague there, he asked. He asked me to come down from the Imperial City, where I worked for the Atreus Building Commission, to negotiate some contracts. Scotty took another bite of the dried sausages they were sharing for dinner. We're going to try to repair and refurbish whatever bridges and roads and other structures that got damaged with the recent war with the Khajiit. It's been a hard 2 years, the captain nodded his head, though I suppose good for me and the likes of you and your friend. Trade routes cut off. Now they think there's going to be a war with Somerset Isles. You heard that? Scotty shook his head. I've done my share of smuggling skooma down the coast, even helping some revolutionary types escape the Nain's wrath. But now the wars have made me a legitimate trader, a businessman. The first casualties of war is always the corrupted. Scotty said he was sorry to hear that, and they lapsed into silence, watching the stars and moon's reflection on the still water. The next day, Scotty awoke to find the captain wrapped up in his sail, torpid from alcohol, singing in a low, slurred voice. When he saw Scotty rise, he offered his flagon of Jaga. I learned my lesson during the revelry at Western Cross. The captain laughed and then burst into tears. I don't want to be legitimate. Other pirates I used to know are still rapping and stealing and smuggling and selling nice folk like you into slavery. I swear to you, I never thought the first time that I ran a real shipment of legal goods that my life would turn out like this. Oh, I know I could go back to it, but Bandar knows not, after all I've seen. I'm a ruined man. Scotty helped the weeping Murr out of his sail, murmuring words of reassurance. Then he added, "Forgive me for changing the subject, but where are we?" "Oh," moaned Captain Balfix miserably. "We made good time. Athay's right around the bend in the river." "Then it looks like Athay's on fire," said Scotty, pointing. A great plume of smoke, black as pitch, was rising above the trees as they drifted around the bend. They next saw the flames and then the blackened skeletal remains of the village. Dying, blazing villagers leapt from rocks onto the river. A cacophony of wailing met their ears, and they could see roaming along the edges of town the figures of Khajiit soldiers bearing torches. "Bandar, bless me," slurred the captain. "The war's back on." "Oh no," whispered Scotty. The sloop drifted with the current towards the opposite shore, away from the fiery town. Scotty turned his attention there, and the sanctuary it offered. Just a peaceful arbor away from the horror. There was a shudder of leaves in the... Damn, really dry throat. There was a shudder of leaves in two of the trees, and a dozen lithe Khajiit dropped to the ground, armed with bows. "They see us," hissed Scott, "and they've got bows." "Well, of course they have bows," snarled Captain Balfix. "We Bosmer may have invented bloody things, but we don't think to keep them secret, you bloody bureaucrat. Now they're setting their arrows on fire. Yes, they do that sometimes. Captain, they're shooting at us. They're shooting at us with flaming arrows." That doesn't work. So they are," the captain agreed. "The aim here is to avoid being hit." But hit they were, and very shortly after, even worse. The second volley of arrows hit the supply of pitch, which ignited in a tremendous blue blaze. Scotty grabbed Captain Balfix, and they leapt overboard just before the ship and all of its cargo disintegrated. The shock of the cold water brought the Bosmer into a temporary sobriety. He called to Scotty, who was already swimming as fast as he could towards the bend. "Master Decamus, where do you think you're swimming?" "Back to Falnicity," cried Scotty. "It will take you days, and by the time you get there, everyone will know about the attack on Athay. They'll never let anyone they don't know in. The closest village downriver is Grenos. Maybe they'll give us shelter." Scotty swam back to the captain, and side by side they began paddling in the middle of the river past the burning residence of the village. He thanked Mara that he had learned to swim. Many a Cyrodiil did not. As largely landlocked as the imperial province was, had he been raised in Murkropt or Artmon, he might have been doomed. But the imperial city itself was encircled by water, and every lad and lass there knew how to cross without a boat. even those who grew up to be clerks and not adventurers. Captain Ballfix's sobriety faded as he grew used to the water's temperature. Even in wintertide, the Xylo River was fairly temperate, and after a fashion even comfortable. The Bosmer strokes were uneven, and he strayed closer to Scotty, and then further away, pushing ahead and then falling behind. Scotty looked to the shore to his right. The flames had caught the trees like tinder behind them. Wasn't it? Like tinder. Behind them was an inferno, which they were barely keeping pace. Damn it. Behind them was Inferno, with which they were barely keeping pace. To the shore on their left all looked fair, until he saw a tremble in the river reeds, and then what caused it. A pride of the largest cats he had ever seen. They were auburn-haired, green-eyed beasts, with jaws and teeth to match, his wildest nightmares. And they were watching the two swimmers and keeping pace. Captain Ballfix, we can't go to either that shore or the other one, or we'll be parboiled or eaten. Scotty whispered, try to even your kicking and your strokes. Breathe like you would normally. If you're feeling tired, tell me, and we'll float on our backs for a while. Anyone who has had the experience of giving rational advice to a drunkard would understand the hopelessness. Scotty kept pace with the captain, slowing himself, quickening, drifting left and right while the Bosmer moaned old ditties from his pirate days. When he wasn't watching his companion, he watched the cats on the shore. After a stretch, he turned to his right. Another village had caught fire. Undoubtedly, it was Grenos. Scotty stared at the blazing fury, awed by the sight of the destruction, and did not hear that the captain had ceased to sing. When he turned back, Captain Ballfix was gone. Scotty dove into the murky depths of the river over and over again. There was nothing to be done. When he surfaced after his final search, he saw that the giant cats had moved on, perhaps assuming that he too had drowned. He continued his lonely swim downriver. A tributary, he noted, had formed a final barrier, keeping the flames from spreading further. But there were no more towns. After several hours, he began to ponder the wisdom of going ashore. Which shore was the question? He was spared the decision. Ahead of him was a rocky island with a bonfire. He did not know if he were intruding on a party of Bosmeri or Khajiit. Only that he could swim no more. With straining, aching muscles, he pulled himself onto the rocks. They were Bosmer refugees, he gathered, even before they told him. Roasting over the fire was the remains of one of the giant cats that had been stalking him through the jungle on the opposite shore. Why, you're a jerk. Sinchi tiger, said one of the young warriors, ravenously. It's no animal. It's as smart as any Katherat or Ohms or any other bleeding Khajiit. Pity this one drowned. I would have gladly killed it. Snowball doesn't like you. You'll like the meat, though. Sweet from all the sugar these asses eat. Snowball really doesn't like you. Scotty did not know if he was capable of eating a creature as intelligent as a man or more, but he surprised himself as he had done several times over the last days. It was rich, succulent, and sweet, like sugared pork, but no seasoning had been added. He surveyed the crowd as he ate, a sad lot still weeping for the lost family members. They were the survivors of both the villages of Grenos and Athe, and the war was on every person's lip. Why had the Khajiit attacked again? Why specifically directed at Scotty as a Cyrodiil? Why was the Emperor not enforcing the peace in his provinces? I was to meet another Cyrodiil, he said to a Bosmer maiden who was understood to be from Athe. His name was Leotis Jarus. I don't suppose you know what might have happened to him. I don't know your friend, but there was many Cyrodiils in Athe when the fire came, said the girl. Some of them, I think, left quickly. They were going to Vindisi, inland, in the jungle. I am going there tomorrow, so are many of us. If you wish, you may come as well. Decumus Scotti nodded solemnly. He made himself as comfortable as he could in the stony ground of the river island, and somehow, after much effort, he fell asleep, but he did not sleep well. A Dance in Fire, Volume 3, as read by Snowball the Dragon Cat. Have a good day. Bye-bye.